Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Friday, October the 16th, race number 9 at Keeneland. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 3 Pin Oak Valley View Stakes. 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a 16th, as always at Keeneland, it seems. A big and bulky competitive field, and you can download free Formulator Pass performances for the Valley View on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, Mike, because we're thinking it's going to be pretty hot up front. Duopoly, the number one's got to go, I would think, from the inside post. And In Good Spirits right next door, the number 2. Well, she's at her best when she's on or near the lead.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we'll see how fast they wind up going, Dan. I don't know how fast the pace is going to be, but certainly the 2 horses drawn to the inside, it just seems like they're at their best when they go forward.
Now, the number 12 on your pace projector is Antoinette, the morning line and expected favorite. Bill Mott, of course, won the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup last week with 3-year-old filly Harvey's Little Goyle. He scratched Antoinette out of that race, so she gets a little bit of class relief here, but she won't be getting the same trip she got in her last couple.
Yeah, this is definitely an easier spot for her, but we'll just see what kind of trip she can pull from the far outside post. And she's another horse who, I mean, I don't feel like she necessarily has to be on the lead, but that's where she was in her last 2 starts, and she ran well both times.
Let's watch the upwardly mobile number 1, Duopoly's most recent victory against entry-level allowance foes, and only her 3rd lifetime start. Fresh off the maiden win, she went right to the front. She stretched them out during the 3rd quarter, and she's going to hold sway. She hops back to her left lead at the very end of this race, but she's just done everything right in her last 2, Mike.
Yeah, big step forward for this filly off of her debut. It's interesting, too, because you tend to expect the Chad Brown horses to be ready first time out, especially when they get bet like Duopoly did. She didn't really run that well in her debut, Dan, but she's really put things together quickly. I mean, she's been absolutely dominant in her last 2 starts, both times on the lead. So we'll see if she's one of those fillies who needs to be in that position to be effective. But based on her last 2 races, she could be pretty good.
Well, I think she's going to get the lead in here, even if the number 2, In Good Spirits, is quick out of there. In Good Spirits tried to rake 2 starts back in the regret. They really made a concerted effort to get her in behind horses in the pocket, and she ran fine. She just didn't run to the level I thought of her race in the Tepin off the long layoff 3 starts back when she showed speed. She's faced some really nice fillies this year. The aforementioned Harvey's Little Goyle, last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf winner Sharing. I'm just concerned about the lack of stamina we've seen in the last couple of races, and if she doesn't make the lead and the pace is solid, she could be in trouble.
She could. We'll see what she does, Dan. I guess you could look at her and say the last 3 starts when they ran her against stakes horses, she's just found things a little bit too tough so far. I think that's probably the case, but we'll see what she does here. This isn't as tough a spot, I don't think, as either of the last 2, probably any of the last 3. So I think she fits in here. If she doesn't make the lead, I think that's a problem for her. And all in all, maybe a little give in the ground didn't help her last time, Dan, but she was really no match in that race after making the front.
Here's an interesting filly at 15-1 on the morning line. The 2-for-2 Princess Grace stepping up off an optional claiming victory at Monmouth. Let's watch that race right now. Princess Grace was taken off the pace. She came with a 4-wide bid on the turn. She's in the white silks right now. She's going to readily go by this leader, and she wins as a favorite should. Now, she's facing much weaker competition in this race than the horses she's going to face in the Valley View, but she's all upside. She's got a nice, versatile running style for strong connections.
Yeah, it's all about how she handles a step up in class. I actually think she's run really well in both of her starts. Very impressive winning those 2 races. And it just feels like she has a lot of upside. A filly with a little bit of pedigree behind her as well. It's not going to be easy for her in here, Dan, but there are things to like.
The number 4 is Walk in Marrakesh, who is a stakes winner overseas and has been a bridesmaid since shipping to North America ever since her first start, the Natalma, where I thought she ran quite well, battling out in the lead and then just losing by a dirty nose. I wonder if you're starting to get a little bit tired of her act, Mike. I am. Her race in the Appalachian 2 starts back at Keeneland. Well, it showed she really likes the course here at Keeneland, but I thought she had that race sewn up. And Enola Gay, who looked hopelessly beaten at the 16th pole, was able to get her. I thought Walk in Marrakesh hung a little bit in that race.
Yeah, I don't like that race from her at all. I mean, I was willing to, maybe give her some excuses for the close defeats earlier on when she got over here, but not the Appalachian. I don't like that race overall, and I didn't see the excuse for her not to win. And it's not like she ran great last time either, Dan. I mean, I don't know about you. I didn't think she had a poor trip at all in that race. She was in position. She wasn't good enough.
She didn't pick up her feet at all in that race. Marty McGee from DRF talked to trainer Nacho Correas for the advance. Nacho believes that walking Marrakesh just doesn't like it at Churchill Downs, that her only two really poor performances came there. The word on the street, she's working lights out at Keeneland leading up to this race. So we'll see if we get a better effort from Walk in Marrakesh. And she's double digits on the morning line. Wittez is 8-1 on the morning line. And let's watch the number 5, Wittez's most recent effort. The grade 3 Lake George at Saratoga. And I thought this was a pretty good performance, Mike, coming from well off of the pace.
I did too. I thought she ran well in here. This is a pretty good field too. She had run well in her prior start, Dan, at Saratoga when they dropped her into an allowance race. She got a pace to run at, and I liked how she won that race. And she runs well in here. Overall, Lezcano gave her a really good trip because he got her to save ground early before he swung her out through the stretch. I mean, it's at least worth noting that the 1-2 finishers both rode the rail the entire way, and Wittez had to get to the outside in the stretch. But I thought all in all, she ran well, and she's going to be a price in this race.
No, I think that's a very good point. We saw her finish third in that race. The leader, the winner of that race, rode the rail until the very end. The runner-up was speed and on the rail, and Wittez was in mid-pack, but she then had to go wide into the stretch, and maybe that cost her. I think she's getting good for Ian Wilkes, and this pace could work out to her advantage. How ironic is the number 6 going out for a really underrated trainer in Vicky Oliver, but how ironic, looks like a 30-1 shot on the morning line. She just didn't fire in the Dueling Grounds Oaks last time out. Maybe that distance was a bit far for her. My personal feeling is maybe that company was a bit tough.
Yeah, I think it could be both things. It might have just been too tough for her, but the distance is a viable excuse, in my opinion. Her win at Ellis two-back was pretty good, Dan. I mean, she was way out of it early. She came with a really strong finish, though, and won that race very easily. It doesn't make her fast enough to beat this field, but you know what? You could do worse looking for a 30-1 shot than this horse.
As the number 7 Pranked has matured, it seems that she has learned how to rate, and those tactics would put her in good stead in Friday's race of the day. I thought Jermaine Bridgman gave her a good ride 2 starts back at Indiana Grand over yielding ground, saved ground most of the way, got out in the lane, and just missed in between horses to a promising runner in Hendy Woods, who came back to run second in the Edgewood. Now, Prank didn't run very well in the Edgewood, and I know the comment says bumped, bothered start. I really didn't see a lot of trouble for this filly.
I didn't either. She just really never made a run from back off the pace in that race. And I really agree with your take on her Indiana Grand race too, Dan. I mean, all in all, I thought she got a really good trip and ride and just wasn't good enough.
Lucky Betty, the number 8, might be going the right way for trainer William Van Meter. Actually, she ran third in the Edgewood last time out at Churchill Downs behind Sharing, and I thought she gave a pretty good performance. She swung wide into the stretch. She's no match for Sharing and Hendy Woods, but they were the 2 favorites in the race. And Lucky Betty, now making her 3rd start of the form cycle, the buyers are going the right way. This distance just seems to be right up her alley. She could work out a good trip in here. She's a horse I'm considering using in exotics at a big price.
Yeah, I can't argue with that too much. I thought, like you, I thought she ran fine in the Edgewood last time. And her, turf debut at Ellis Park prior to that, I mean, she got a perfect trip in that race, but you know what? She ran well enough to be considered in a race like this.
Tough to knock a horse that's won half of her 14 lifetime starts, and the number 9 Sugar Fix has won 5 out of her last 6 for Safi Joseph, including this race at Kentucky Downs. Now, it's worth noting, the one loss during that streak came when they stepped her up into graded company in the Lake George. She finished 5th that day, but here she is dropping into a starter allowance, and she takes it over into the straight, and she just blows by these horses once she gets into gear. Again, she's favored in this race. She's taking a huge class drop in this race, and she's supposed to win. Now she's back up against stronger horses, and she likes to be close to the pace.
Yeah, she does. I don't really know what to say, Dan. It's not like her Lake George was a disaster. That was first off the claim for Safi Joseph. She ran fine in there, just really wasn't good enough at the end of the day. I'm just not really taken by her last race. We've talked about these Kentucky Downs races a lot. I don't know, how I feel about her getting a 91 for that race. The horse that finished second to her just isn't very good. And you can see in that replay we just watched, nobody else did any running at all in that race.
The number 10 Outburst began her North American career with a lot of promise. 2 wins in a row, utilizing versatile running styles, and a graded stakes win in the Florida Oaks, beating Walk in Marrakesh. Her last 3 races, 180-degree different. She has not run very well in any one of those races. Now, the Tepin's kind of the race I'm looking at, where she was close to the pace that was set by the number 2 in here, In Good Spirits, and she just had nothing left in the stretch. Now, if you want to excuse the Indiana Grand Race yielding ground, fine. And if you want to look at the Music City and say she cut back in distance against some decent sprinter milers, fine. If she could find her Florida Oaks, she fits with these horses. I just don't know if she will.
I kind of agree with you, and I spent a long time looking at Outburst because I still want to be a fan of hers, and I'm happy to give her the excuses for the last 2 that you just did. But you're also correct in that you have to sort of reconcile that Tepin, where she faced a good field, and it really wasn't close. There was really no excuse for her in there. She didn't run well. I do think she's better than that. If she's going to be some kind of huge price in here, I want to throw her in somewhere, but I'm starting to get concerned that she's just not that good.
I respect the 11 Stunning Sky. I hope she drifts a little bit off that 7-2 morning line. I think that's a little bit light. She's had her share of trips in some races this year, and the regret when she was well beaten, she might have been a little bit closer if she wasn't steadied on the turn and forced to split horses. In the Lake Placid, Irad tried to get her out on the far turn, steadied a bit, but then the rail opened up. She shot on through, and she just missed. My concern is in the Saratoga Oaks, she kind of got the trip that day, and she just couldn't get past Antoinette. My feeling about the Saratoga Oaks and the subsequent effort in the Dueling Ground Oaks is this. Those distances were too far, and she's getting a cutback she really, really needs.
Yeah, the cutback could really work for her. I mean, you're correct, Dan. I think she's actually run well in each of her last 3 races. She couldn't get it done in any of them, but she ran well enough in those spots to come back in a race like this, and I think be very competitive. It doesn't make me want to take her, as one of the favorites in this race, but boy, she'd be pretty tough to leave out completely, I thought.
Let's watch Antoinette, the number 12's most recent race in the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks. This filly is Grade 1 placed on dirt, Grade 1 placed on turf. She went to the front in here. She set a moderate pace. She tried to get away during the 3rd quarter. This filly that runs her over, Magic Attitude's just a nice one. She came right back and ran a good 3rd in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. Antoinette was no match for her. Antoinette has been on the lead in her last 2 races, and her signature win 2 back in the Saratoga Oaks came going longer and able to control the pace. But she has one going shorter from off of it, and I think she has enough tactical speed to work out a decent trip from the outside post. She's the horse to beat, in my opinion.
I agree that she has tactical speed. We'll just see what happens here, Dan. I have a tough time buying into her, not because of her last 2 races. She ran fine in both of those against some good horses. But, it's not like she ran, races that make you feel like she towers over horses like this as the favorite. And I'll, just still go back to that wonder again. And I realize that there are ways to make excuses for that race, but I thought she was in a great spot there. And to me, she just didn't run well at all in there. It just makes me wonder how good she is. Don't really want her as the favorite. I recognize her as a contender in here.
We take a look at our top picks in here, and I think you make a good point in that it's not like from a speed figure edge. The number 12, Antoinette, has some gigantic edge over this field that would make her, a worthwhile betting proposition at anything less than 2-1. I think if she goes off at 3 on the morning line, I think that's fair enough. I go with her. Duopoly's upside, though, trumps that for you, and you think Duopoly can go right to the lead.
Yeah, I wanted her upside over the other 2 short prices on the morning line. So, we'll just see what she does in here. I can't say that I love her, Dan, but I have been pretty impressed with her last 2 wins. So of the short prices, I want her. And the other horse for me, the other horse that I really want to use is the 5 with Tez. I think she's going to get us set up in here, and I think she's headed the right way.
Yeah, I think you make good points right out there with Tez. I'm going 12, 1, 9, and 11. You're going 1, 5, 11, and 3. It's Friday's race of the day. It's the Grade 3 Pin Oak Valley View. Race number 9 at Keeneland on Friday is an approximate post of 5:30 Eastern. Best of luck.